Hello everyone, and welcome to the third episode of the Heavensward Dungeon Lore series. In this series, I hope to explain things you might not know about Final Fantasy XIV dungeons, as well as discuss their individual stories and lore. This episode's dungeon is the Aery. The Churning Mists, as discovered by the Warrior of Light and their companions, is still the long-kept home of many dragons, and while some, such as Heavensward, reside there, at least willing to speak with humans and Moogles alike, the same cannot be said of Nidhogg, the instigator of the Dragonsong War and the worm whose terrible wrath is thrown towards Ishgard. As it currently stands, Nidhogg is once more upon the skies of the Mists since the death of Tiaman, his consort. He lies deep within the dark storm of rubble and clouds known as the Aery. Meanwhile, the Warrior of Light, along with Estinian, Alphino and Izael, begin their progress through the Churning Mist, first meeting with the many Moogles residing there. After opening diplomacy with the help of Kuplo Kopp and Kan A. Senna, the Elder Seedseer, the Moogles put the party to a handful of trials to ascertain their trustworthiness. While the trials turn out to be naught more than basic errands, the Moogles keep their word and produce a horn with which to summon Heavensward. The group proceeds to Zenith, tackling dragons along the way, and use the horn to cool down the mighty worm. Izael speaks with Heavensward, who deems her projection of Shiva to be a mere image based on faith, instead of the true spirit of the lost soul. He goes on to tell us the truth of the origin of the Dragonsong War, how after peace was made between human and dragon, King Thordan and his knights slew Ratatoska, another dragon, for the power of her eyes, sending Nidhogg to his nigh eternal fury. After Heavensward returns to the skies, Izael seems devastated by this unsightly truth, and we choose to leave her to ponder over her faith. Estinian leads the way to discover the location of Nidhogg's lair, traversing to the far side of the mist, finally discovering the swarming clouds surrounded by raging winds, similar to those that surrounded Gerudo before they were penetrated by the Enterprise. Alphino remembers Cid's efforts in defeating the aforementioned Primal, and suggests that we request his help once more to pierce the barrier to the Aery. Speaking with Cid and Ishgard, we are taken to the Skysteel Manufactory, where Biggs and Wedge reveal their latest creation, known as a Mana Cutter, a small ship designed to work with the Wind Ether to help it pierce etheric barriers. The ship is not complete, however, and needs some time before being able to be used. After this, Tataru bursts into the room and tells the group that there has finally been movement within Ul'dah, and as the progress on Ishgard's side has ceased, Alphino decides to assist Rauban with returning to the capital. We head to the Waking Sands to discuss the plan of action, discovering that the potent sleeping drug used to subdue Nanamo was most likely administered by Meriel, her lady-in-waiting. We travel to the Silver Bazaar to find Meriel, but after doing so, Lolorito and Julala appear outside her residence, and the former explains the whole situation to an irate Rauban. Although Lolorito's meddling did cause Rauban to lose an arm, it did also directly save the life of the Sultana, and Rauban expresses his gratitude for it. We return to Ul'dah with the entourage to Nanamo's chambers, where at last the cure given by Lolorito awakens her, and she is greeted by Rauban. A small discussion ensues regarding the next actions for the government of Ul'dah, deciding on matters concerning the ever more fearsome Garlean armies. Following the meeting, Alphino expresses that he wishes to disband the Crystal Braves officially, as many of those still wearing the uniform chose to betray it, such as Ilberd. After Alphino returns to the Rising Stones, only to have his disbandment shut down by the remaining loyal Braves, we return to Ishgard and to Cid to discover just in time that the Mana Cutters have been completed. Finally, we meet with Emmerich to update him on the status of the war effort, after which we speak with Cid and Estinian near a prepared Mana Cutter, as the two fighters and their companions make ready to delve straight into Nidhogg's own lair. As we pilot the Mana Cutter to a landing point within the lair, Nidhogg himself appears from behind and attempts to blast us from the sky. Narrowly avoiding a ball of fire, the Warrior of Light careens out of the way, and Estinian uses the eye to stun Nidhogg in his tracks, allowing a temporary escape as Nidhogg proclaims our deaths to the skies. Arriving at the platform, we begin our progress towards the peak of the Aery. Along the way, the very clouds themselves strike out at the party, occasionally dousing them with electricity. The structures and walkways of the place seem akin to those found in the churning mists, but covered with spiky plants and corrupted crystals. We head up the ramps and paths, defeating many dragons along the way, until we reach Akfal, where a large serpent-like dragon known as Rangda awaits. The name of this creature presumably comes from the Bali figure of the same name, a demon queen known for leading an army of witches against the forces of good. The name of the area, however, means the Circle of Fallen Light in dragon speak. During the fight, the dragon uses its affinity with lightning to strike the party. Electric cachexia hits anyone too far away from the creature, and when injured, it charges a heavy lightning attack on a party member. The targeted member can take the tether to a pillar around the edge of the arena, causing the target to change to that pillar. Rangda also summons Layak, another reference to Bali mythology, with Layak being the race of creatures led by Rangda. Upon defeat, the party slides down the pile of rubble opposite the arena, proceeding to the interior section of the Aery. The glow here is reminiscent of that within a part of Som Al, and we cross what looks like webbed bridges, defeating more dragons within the place. The remains of eggshells from Nidhogg's spawn are scattered here, unsurprisingly so as the Great Worm made the place its lair. After reaching a wall of gas, the bombarding dragon sweeping the party lands and is defeated, and after proceeding up and towards the outside of the area once more, we reach Ten Ur, where Gyascutus awaits us. Another name in mythology, the Gyascutus is the name for a creature who walks among the hills, with its legs on one side being longer than the other. The arena, meanwhile, is known as the Root of Corruption. This is another fight that was once different, as beforehand the party would have needed to prevent Gyascutus from allowing the gas it spawns to explode and deal heavy damage to the group. Now, however, it spreads the highly flammable gas from its body and ignites it, causing it to explode across the arena. Proximity Pyre bursts flames around itself, and inflammable fume summons forth the gaseous puddles, as well as a barrier of wind across the outside of the arena. Other than the gas, the Gyascutus occasionally uses a body slam to knock the party away. After this, we begin climbing yet higher into the Aery, utilising the unstable stone pillars as we defeat the dragons to pass across otherwise impassable drops. As we move across the structure, more pillars collapse before us, and we reach Ern Score, the punishment of man. A horde of wyverns and evises await us here, after which we ascend the steps to finally reach the worm's lair, Nidhogg An. The worm awaits us there, and simply roars loudly before attacking the party. Weakened by the power of the eye, the party uses this to their advantage, and during the fight, Nidhogg unleashes his fiery fury upon them. His hot tail and hot wings slice different parts of the arena with a fiery blast, and when injured, his cauterize covers half of the arena in flame. He begins to use the Sable Price, trapping a party member in an etheric jail, instantly incapacitating them if not freed by their fellows. After this, Nidhogg retreats to the sky and calls forth his fellow dragons to assault the party. When they are felled, he uses Massacre to blast the full arena with fire. Afterwards, he unleashes a final blast known as Horrid Blaze before he is defeated. We see Astinian land a vital blow onto the worm, who flees into the sky. Upon attempting to leave the apex of the Aery, Nidhogg returns and ensues another battle with Astinian. The Dragoon jumps and lands another blow to the head of the worm, who takes flight, trying to shake his adversary off. After regaining his balance, a wicked smile overtakes Astinian, who manages to pierce and extract the eye from Nidhogg, covering himself in the blood of the worm at the same time. Nidhogg lets out an enormous roar, and finally begins to tumble into the abyss, vanishing into nothingness. As Estinian returns to the ground, the Warrior of Light experiences a third vision restoring another of their crystals, this time being the lightning aspected one. We then partake in another vision of the past, seeing Haldrath, son of King Thordan himself, and his fellow knights after doing battle with Nidhogg 1,000 years prior. Haldrath carries both eyes of the worm, and announces his abdication from the throne of Ishgard. Shocked, the knights speak up of what will become of Ishgard's leadership, and Haldrath replies that it should fall to the leading knights to help the people to a new age. He then leaves with both eyes in tow, to walk the realm as the dragon-slaying dragoon for the rest of his days. About half of the remaining knights also leave, stating that their allegiance was to Haldrath, and that should there be no king, they too will choose not to lead. The remaining 4 knights will become heads of the original High Houses of Ishgard, of Zemail, Hylanart, Durandare and Fortom. Back in the present, we tell Estinian of our vision, and although reluctant to accept it as fact, he has no choice and ponders that, if Nidhogg did indeed lose both eyes to Haldrath as opposed to a single one, how then did he retain the eye that Estinian himself plucked from the worm's body? We then leave the Aery proper, and Estinian asked that before reporting to Emmerich, the jury should revisit Reisvelga for more information on the past, suspecting that things are still not quite as they seem. And that's the end of the story and lore for the Aery. The great dragon's lair clouded in lightning and wind, holding many more powerful dragons than seen prior. But with Nidhogg's apparent defeat, who knows what might happen next for the Dragonsong War. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more Final Fantasy XIV lore, and I'll see you next time for the Vault.